man, how is everything? It's an exciting time right now.
Everything's amazing. Everything's really
Good,
good. Really good. Yeah.
good, man. I appreciate you doing this today. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you
I
for having
really,
me.
absolutely. And finally, after a couple weeks out, there is new music. There is
Yes.
a new song. It is out. Let It Breathe. Tell me all about it, man. It's the first single, first new music in a minute.
Yeah, it's the first new music since 2018.
Yeah,
And actually, this is the first time ever that I've ever done an acoustic, just
yeah.
guitar, vocals, acoustic record. So there's an EP coming behind this
Oh,
soon.
good. Okay.
Yeah, of
Awesome.
just acoustic music. But
Ooh,
at the same time, we did the single, released that. All the music's done for the acoustic EP. So we're just waiting to drop that.
okay. Nice. Nice. Yeah, it
And
is.
then and then
Go
oh,
ahead.
and then I was gonna say then we also have the full length record with the full band. And that first single for that will be out May 3rd.
Ooh,
So
nice. Nice. That
yeah.
explains a lot because it is so different than the last EP that came out back in 2018. I listened to it
Yeah.
probably four times through today, just alone, just getting
Yeah.
ready this morning. And my boss in my office is like, "What are you listening to?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it. It's good."
Right.
Very, very different, man. You mentioned it's all acoustic. What made you want to go down this road?
Well, I've always wanted to get it, do a record that was just a guitar, and vocals. But I just never really, I don't know, I just never did. I've always was doing the band, and back in those days, especially from 2004 to 2008, we were always on the road, we were always touring and a lot. And we were just making music and then touring on it. And so we had the EP and then followed that up with the full length record from 2008, not the EP
Right.
now, but there was an EP
Yeah.
in 2005 and then one in
Yeah.
full length in 2008. So we were just so busy. We were just pumping out the heavy, like more punk based
Right.
songs. So that's just what we were doing. And we never really felt, I don't know, I just never really felt the time
Right.
or that it was right to do the acoustic record. But I felt because there was such a gap, from 2018 being the last thing we ever did to
Yeah.
now, I figured might as well start with that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's done. And so we went in and I partnered up with two amazing producers, which is Ryan Williams from here in Cleveland and Bob Marlette from LA. And
Nice.
I'm sure you know his track record. He's done so many huge bands. So we worked with them, got the EP done, and we knew from the beginning of working with them and the deal with them was that we wanted to do the full length record with the full band. But
Right.
and originally that's what it was going to be, but I kind of just slipped over some uh demos to Ryan, and he was like, "Hey man, let me give this to Bob and see if he's interested in working on this." So he did, and Bob was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely interested." So that got the ball rolling on that. So we're kind of doing both at the same time. I was off doing the acoustic EP, and then and certain days we come here to the rehearsal spot and work on the new record for the full band. So
Yeah. Fans seem to really like the new song too, which with it being such a departure from what people know you guys for, know you for, like were you were you thinking about what the fan reaction and reception might be when you finally put it out? And do you go back and check that at all and kind of see what people are thinking? Or are you just like, nope, we did it. I love it. Hope you like it. We're calling it good.
well, so the two-part answer. One is I and the like when I write for me.
For you.
So that's I'm getting something out of me when I write lyrically
Yes.
and musically. Of course, I hope it resonates with people. I hope people get something from it and hope it moves them. I hope they enjoy it. But I'm never gonna write saying,
Sure.
"Well, I hope this fits a certain thing,"
And you
because if I
shouldn't.
did that, then that single would
Yeah.
have never came out.
No. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but
Um,
I'm thrilled that so happy that people are loving it. So lucky that it's resonating with people. And yes, I do. I check in. So I'll check in on the social media every once in a while and see what people are thinking and read through a bunch of the messages. So I'm still very in touch with what's going on. I don't have somebody else off doing the work, and I like
Right.
to keep hands on as much as possible.
Well, and
So
that's what makes it so good is that you're so in tune and in communication with the fans, which is what I just love that. It's just awesome.
thank you, thank you.
And I also love it's just the let it bring it just has such a dark feel to it. I don't
Yeah.
know why. It just feels dark and like haunting when I listen to the song. When you sat down to write this one, what did you really want to accomplish with it? Because, like you said, you've been wanting to do something solely acoustic for a while now. You finally got to do it. What was your headspace when you sat down to write this one?
Well, this one, a couple of the songs are older. Once the EP's out, people will see some of the songs are little bit older. And when they were originally written, and when I wrote "Let It Breathe," there's an atmosphere and a feeling that I wanted to create because with the lyrics, the lyrics are very personal to me, and when I'm right, I wanted to have the music match what those lyrics are and the feeling and the place I was coming from when I wrote those. It was a dark place. But that atmosphere has to be there on the music end of it as well. And when I took it to Bob and Ryan, I said, hey, we first of all we said what was the goal, and I said the goal is I want to make the best record that I've ever made, and hands down. And I don't want to be, I just want it to flow out. And then, when it comes to production, they can handle the production end of things and say, okay,
Right.
here's the stripped down version. Let's see what, and I talked to them about the atmosphere that I wanted, a very dark, very, just like a dark,
Yeah.
a feel to it, that dark atmosphere.
Yeah.
And they nailed it. Though
Yeah.
they nailed it. Like when I
Yeah.
heard it back, I was like, that's exact like down to the last second of exactly what I wanted to hear from the production value of that.
It feels like one of the more intricate songs musically that you've written. I don't know if that's just because it is acoustic. So, the listener is just so in tune and so honed in listening to many different parts, but it feels like one of the more intricate, complex songs you have written as well so far.
I think so. I think it
Yeah.
is. I think it is. I think that I allowed myself to expand and write a little bit more rather than, I mean, I love all of our old music. I don't, there's nothing
Yeah.
that I'm like, man, I wish I didn't do that. Um, but I will say it's all our old stuff is a lot more stripped down. Like more of that punk feel of stripped
Yeah.
down. It's still rock, but it's
Yeah.
very stripped down, very raw. And I wanted to expand the writing process and make, like I said, even from the production side of things, I wanted to make the best thing that I've ever done. And even when the new single May 3rd comes out with the full band, it's massive. It's massive because it's already done. So
Nice.
the first single is done, and it is the drums, the guitar sound, the bass is just mass. That's the best word I could do to
Nice.
describe it. Is it's just a
Nice.
massive sound. So it's not so raw and stripped down like everything else that we've ever done. This is a big sonic explosion.
Oh, I can't
So
wait. Jamie needs to
yeah,
send me that song when it's ready. So,
she will. She will. Yes,
what
we will
was,
get that to you.
I hope so. I know she will. So,
Yeah.
what was the time like in between releases for you and for the band? A lot obviously has happened in the
Yeah.
world since. A
Yeah.
lot's
Yeah.
happening. A lot's happening today.
Right.
In the world, it is Eclipse Day. But what was the time like in between releases for you guys and for you?
Well, I'm busy, really busy, because once I got off the road, my journey into my other passion started. And because I was in a punk band before Kill the Fall,
Yes.
and from there I was 14 years of nonstop touring. We were on a Warped Tour and doing a bunch of stuff. So we were really busy. And at the end of the run, I kind of just got burnt out. So
Easy
I
to
just
do.
wanted to, yeah, I wanted 14 years is a long time. And so I wanted to step away from everything. I put the guitar down and I really didn't pick it up again until 2018. So 10 years later, just to make that one quick EP. And then it was down again. And we didn't do anything. We just really did that EP just because that's some songs that we wanted to put out. And
Right.
that's it. There was no press behind it. There was no push, no shows, nothing. But because in between 2008 and now, I've been doing the gym. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I'm a football coach. I'm a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and I'm a jiu-jitsu coach as well. So I have the gym. I compete, at least once a month. My athletes are constantly competing. My MMA fighters are constantly fighting. And, in between that, in the fall, I have high school football that I coach as well. So very busy.
Wow.
Very, very busy.
That's
Yeah.
insane. Like,
Yeah.
wow. I feel like there's a decent amount of punk rockers who love MMA, jujitsu,
Oh yeah.
and just the combat sport. It's so hand in hand.
Yeah.
Um,
Very similar communities. Very
yeah.
similar. Yeah.
What drew you to that side of things with the combat sports, jujitsu and all that? You're a brown belt?
Yes. Brown belt under Dante Leon.
Yeah.
He's here in Toledo. He's hands
Yes.
down, one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners out there. And so I mean, to get what got me into it was I've always been into it. I've always been in sports. I played baseball, football when I was young. Then from there, watching the UFC, the originals, like with the Hoist Gracie and all the original UFC fights, MMA. That's what I've always loved it. So it was always something I wanted to do my whole life, but I was also on the road
Right.
making music, and that's, yeah, I'm not. It takes a lot of time doing that,
Mhm.
so I just didn't have time to focus. I was never home enough either. We were gone for months at a time.
Yeah.
And I'd be home for a couple weeks and back out for months at a time. So I never really had time to find a gym and start training. But once I got to the point where I was burnt out and done with the touring and music, then I really just went all in. I never really thought that, I didn't, I'm going to be honest, the gym aspect of it wasn't part of the picture at first. It was, I wanted to do MMA and I
Mhm.
wanted to coach football. Those are the two things I wanted to do. So I started coaching football right away. I started training, jiu-jitsu and strength and conditioning right away. But I originally went to school to be a paramedic.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. But then once I got into the field of that, it's not for me. Is that we'll just leave it at that. So it's not
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me. So then one day I'm like, you know what? I'm a strength and conditioning coach at the high school. I'm a football coach at the high school. Why not just start my own gym for strength and conditioning? And then eventually the two just kind of merged, and now I own the gym and everything. There's MMA, boxing, wrestling, strength and conditioning, you name it, we have it.
That
So
is awesome.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's great.
yeah, no wonder it took so long for you to sit down and really hammer out some
Right,
music, man.
right. No time, no
Like,
time.
was it just a matter of like, man, I've had a lot of time off. I'm starting to get the itch again. Like I'm feeling creative. Like, what made you decide this is the right time to sit down and do this again? Because once you get out, you finally get a chance to breathe and you're like, you know what? The traveling, not traveling feels pretty good right now. And
Yeah, well, I still traveled a lot because of the
Okay.
tournaments. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still on the road. I'm still on the road, just in a different way, right?
Yeah, it's
I'm on the road
different.
with myself and the other athletes. We're going to, Florida, Vegas, Texas,
Right.
all over the place. So we're still, and I
Mhm.
drive to a lot of those because I'm not a big fan
Oh,
of flying. So I'm still on the road.
fair.
So that aspect of it never really changed. But what really got me was I always would, still fiddle around on the guitar
Yeah.
in my downtime. And then I just started taking the guitar with me sometimes on these trips, and I'd be in a hotel room or, at literally sometimes if you're down by the water and just start writing. And I started coming up with stuff. I felt myself really getting the itch to come back, write some songs and get back in the studio. And then it kind of snowballed. It just gradually built from there, right? Like at first it was, hey, I just want to write some songs and it'd be cool to record them. And then I'm like, well, if I'm going to record them, I probably should, do it the right way instead of just
Right.
recording it on my phone. And then I, started talking to Ryan, and he was a big fan of the older Kill the Fall stuff, right? He said, hey, I
Yeah.
really like this stuff. Let me hear what you have now. And I played that for him, and he said, hey, let me talk to Bob and see if we can, maybe he's
Right.
interested in doing the record. And he was. And then kind of the rest is history. And it's like, and the way I do things, if I'm going to do it, I'm going all in. I don't
Right.
do anything half-ass, anything. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going all in. I'm doing it the right way. I'm going to work my ass off and get it done. So here we
Nice.
are.
Did did your previous music career ever come up in conversation with like your players or the athletes you were coaching or anything like that? Like, did that
It
ever
did.
come up in conversation? Like,
It did. It did. So funny thing is, one of my athletes, I've been training since he was about 6. And yeah, it's one of
wow.
our kid. Yeah, his name's Carter. And funny story, when I first started working with him, it was a speed and agility camp that my nephew Gavin also did jiu-jitsu. He's phenomenal, and he was at this camp, and one of his friends, Carter, was at the camp as well. And we're going through and just doing the daily basic thing. And one day, his dad was at the camp as well, and I forget what shirt I had on or whatever it was. And he said, "Hey, you're a fan of that band?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What's your name?" I said, "Ray Terry." And he's like, "It's it wouldn't be a Ray Terry from Allergic to Horrors, would it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's a big metal guy and punk guy, so he knew the band. And
Wow.
then sometimes at tournaments, there's guys, like there's a big crossover, believe it or not, between the old like punk and hardcore scene and music and jitsu. So sometimes at tournaments, I'll see people that I recognize them or they recognize me from way back, doing
Right.
tours and stuff like that. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, it comes up from time to
I
time.
I had something similar. I work in pro wrestling here in Indiana, and I also
Oh,
work
okay.
in an apartment complex as an assistant
Yeah.
property manager. We had a guy apply for an apartment, and he's like, "Yeah, you look so familiar. I don't know why, but you look familiar." And then he saw a CM Punk mouse pad on my desk, and he's like, "You like pro wrestling?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hold on, like, why?" I'm like, "Do you watch anything locally?" He's like, "Oh my
You hit
God."
them.
I'm like, "Yep,
Right.
here we are."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so it's weird when those two worlds combine because like
Yeah.
I don't know, I never think that that is going to combine with
They're
this.
very far
Like,
away from each other,
yeah, like I
but
never think that's going to happen,
yeah,
you
but
know?
especially with the punk music, hardcore music, and
Yeah.
and jitsu, they are so far from each other, but yet a lot of the same styles and like culture of them are
Mhm.
very similar. So
Right.
I can see why a lot of those hardcore punk kids got into the jiu-jitsu because it's a similar community, you know.
Yeah. What
So
was the punk rock scene like when you were first starting out with Allergic to Horrors and first coming up? Like, what was the scene like out there?
I mean, everything was DIY. There's a lot of American Legion Hall shows, basement shows, rental of halls and that type of thing. Especially when you're first coming up, there wasn't a lot of playing bars and stuff like that because everyone's under 21,
Yeah.
and you're it's young crowd, young bands. You can't, if they let the band play, then you got to be over 21 to see them. So nobody wants to deal with that. Your crowd, you
Mhm.
want all ages. So a lot of it was just when we would tour, there'd be a lot of, like I said, American Legion halls and UFW halls and that those type of places that kids or promoters would rent out, and we do the shows there. And it was a great community. Everybody supporting, especially when you're on tour. It was beautiful to see that support slowly build, because when we first started, we would do the first 2 years. I mean, we're lucky to get, 20 people there. It was,
Wow.
what I mean? But it slowly built. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like we just came out and had hundreds of people the first show. It was 2 or 3 people, then 15, then maybe 30, and it gradually got bigger. But the good part about that was it felt good because we knew we were building that on our own. I
Right.
I did all the booking, all the promoting,
Cool.
the recording, everything. It was all DIY. So it felt good to get that out. And then all of a sudden, you know, 2 years later, you're playing to a couple hundred people, and it's
Right.
but that's how a lot of bands did. They
Hmm.
built it themselves, DIY mentality, and at the end of it, you're building that, like I said, building that community as well.
Right. And Kill the Fall now, is it, how different is the band now compared to 05, 08? Is it still the same members around you, or has that changed over the years?
One member has changed. We have a new bass player.
Okay.
So yeah, so me and the drummer's been around since the beginning. So
Okay.
after Allergic to Horrors, I broke that band up. I was done doing that style of music. I went on to the next thing, and I put an ad out looking for um, musicians, and the original bass player came in, tried out, and I had a fill-in drummer just to, like, work through the parts. And he's like, "Hey, my buddy's a drummer. You'd be a great fit." And then here we are. But he
Nice.
ended up the original bass player just had prior obligations that he wasn't going to be able to put the time in.
Sure.
So that's when another jiu-jitsu guy here, one of my great friends, Spiro, he trains here at the gym with me, and he's like, I was like, "Hey, you want to try it out?" And he said, "Yeah," and the rest is history on that. So, but
Awesome.
me and the drummer's been around for since 2004, so long
Right.
time.
Whew.
Yeah,
Man, 20 years now. Holy crap.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Oh,
A
man.
big section, big chunk of time of being not active, but
Yeah.
still 20 years of time.
Still, but still, man, like new single comes out on what, May 3rd. What does the rest of the
Yeah,
year look like for Kill the Fall? I mean, new EP, full length, I mean, new music coming out. Sounds like
yeah.
pretty consistently for the rest of the year.
It will be. So we have right now, Let It Breathe is out
Yep.
in May 3rd. The song is called The Suffering. That will be out. And right after that, I don't know the date right now. It's not in front of me, but maybe like 4 to 6 weeks after that, the actual full EP will be available. And then another period of time after that, there's another single coming out that is called Excess of Failure. So,
Ooh,
and then by the time those two singles are out, the full length record should be done. So
nice.
it's halfway done now.
Dude, I love your song titles, by the way. Like the song
Oh,
titles
thank
you've
you.
had over the years are so fucking awesome. I
Thank
absolutely
you.
love
Thank you.
them.
Thank you.
I love the artistry, the creativity, and just everything that goes into your guys' music. I just absolutely love it. I'm officially a fan after all of this,
Thank you.
man.
That's
I'm
great.
so glad you guys are back. And I'm so
It's
glad Jamie
amazing.
reached out to set this interview up as well. So,
Yes. Thank you for
man,
doing it too.
absolutely, man. Ray, thank you for doing this today.
Yeah.
Good luck with everything that is coming up the rest of this year.
Thank
And
you.
for the
Thank you.
love of God, try to get some rest in between all of this.
Yeah, I'll try.